Walter Pater. Walter Horatio Pater, an English essayist, art and literary critic, and fiction writer, is celebrated for his reputation as one of the great stylists of his time. His influential work, Studies in the History of the Renaissance, later revised as The Renaissance Studies in Art and Poetry, serves as one of his most renowned publications. In this book, he introduced his approach to art and championed the idea of an intense inner life. Many readers regarded it as a manifesto of aestheticism, a movement that emphasized the importance of aesthetic experience and the pursuit of beauty for its own sake. Pater's early aspiration to enter the church shifted as he developed a profound interest in classical studies. He embarked on a career as a writer for various reviews where his essays on prominent figures like Leonardo da Vinci, Sandro Botticelli, Pico della Mirandola, and the Michelangelo gained recognition. These essays were eventually compiled into Studies in the History of the Renaissance, also known as the Renaissance. Pater's distinctive style, characterized by its delicacy and fastidiousness, along with his keen appreciation of Renaissance art, established his reputation as both a scholar and an aesthete. He became the focal point of a small circle of admirers at Oxford. In the concluding essay of the Renaissance, Pater argued that art's purpose was solely to embody and exude beauty, acknowledging neither moral standards nor utilitarian functions. These views aligned Pater with figures like Algernon Charles Swinburne and the Pre-Raphaelites, who also emphasized the importance of aesthetic experience and the rejection of conventional moral or utilitarian considerations in art. His significant work, Marius the Epicurean, is a philosophical romance in which he elaborated on his ideal of an aesthetic and religious life. The novel is set in the Rome of Marcus Aurelius but serves as a vehicle for the exploration of late 19th century spiritual development. Additionally, Imaginary Portraits consists of shorter pieces of philosophical fiction in a similar way. Appreciations marks Pater's return to critical essays, primarily focusing on English subjects. In Plato and Platonism, Pater offered a highly literary perspective on Plato, focusing on the philosophical aspects of the ancient philosopher's work. Several of Pater's works were published posthumously, including Greek Studies, Miscellaneous Studies, Essays from the Guardian. Among these posthumous works is his unfinished romance, Gaston de la Tour. Walter Pater's contributions to literature and art criticism continue to be recognized and studied for their profound impact on aestheticism and the appreciation of beauty for its intrinsic value. Algernon Charles Swinburne. Although the particulars of Swinburne's life, physical appearance, and personality have been widely explored by biographers and commentators, he remains known as an English poet and critic. Born in 1837 into a wealthy Northumbrian family in London, Swinburne received his education at Eton College and Balliol College, Oxford, but did not complete a degree. Swinburne was an accomplished lyric poet of the Victorian era and a symbol of rebellion against the conservative values of his time. His notable works include Poems and Ballads Second Series, Songs Before Sunrise, Poems and Ballads, Chastelard, Atalanta in Calydon, and The Queen Mother and Rosamond. Swinburne's explicit and often sexually charged themes in his poetry were a subject of both delight and shock, contributing to his image as a provocative artist. While Swinburne's fascination with these themes is well known, it is essential to recognize his primary concern was the creation of poetic beauty. During his time at Oxford, Swinburne connected with the Pre-Raphaelite circle, including the Rossetti brothers, and his writing reflected the group's emphasis on medieval subjects, religious symbolism, and sensuous imagery. His early literary success came with Atalanta in Calydon in 1865, written in the style of classical Greek tragedy. However, the publication of Poems and Ballads in 1866 brought him instant notoriety due to its explicit themes. Swinburne's reputation became synonymous with indecent content and the principle of art for art's sake. He also wrote poetry on political themes such as Song of Italy and Songs Before Sunrise in support of the Risorgimento. Swinburne's physical and psychological peculiarities, excessive drinking, and propensity for accidents contributed to a turbulent life. In 1879, Theodore Watts Dunton, his friend and literary agent, intervened and helped Swinburne recover from his self-destructive behaviors. Watts Dunton's role remains a subject of controversy, but he is generally credited with saving Swinburne's life. Swinburne spent the latter part of his life under the care of Watts Dunton and continued writing into his old age. He passed away in London in 1909 at the age of 72. Swinburne's work is marked by intense lyricism, intricate imagery, metrical virtuosity, and the use of assonance and alliteration. His works often received both praise and parody for their strong rhythms and excessive use of alliteration. While some critics found his imagery vague and rhymes uninspired, others identified exceptional poems among his later works, such as By the North Sea, Evening on the Broads, and Neap Tide. Throughout his career, Swinburne also published literary criticism, exhibiting his vast knowledge of world literature, including Elizabethan dramatists, English and French poets, and novelists. His critical essays were celebrated for their wit and insight. Swinburne's contributions to various literary genres have undergone re-evaluation in the mid-20th century, with critics highlighting works of great merit across his entire career.